Hey guys. Okay, I think we should be rolling. All right, so I wanted to get on here with you guys today so that I can talk to you about how to write your intro paragraphs and kind of walk you through that, especially if you struggled yesterday. Um, oh no, I'm sorry, was it really loud? Um, Scary. So I want to help you with your intro paragraphs and also with thesis statements and stuff if you were struggling with doing that yesterday or if you're a little behind, that's fine. Also, you're going to be happy to hear that I have pretty much decided that I'll make these due Sunday night um, because the morning class whined so much about them being due Friday night that they have convinced me I will let it go on Sunday. Yes, yes. But I would like to help you get as much done during this week as I can so that you're not having to spend your whole weekend typing or trying to figure out how to do this. So today we're going to go over, like I said, intro paragraphs and those thesis statements. Tomorrow I'm going to video you again, and we're going to talk about how to write your body paragraphs and get those structured well. And then Friday, I'm just going to try to be available to kind of troubleshoot with help. Like conclusions are easy, and we can talk about that if you need to. But basically, my goal is to walk everybody through everything. So even those people who are gone for MGA, I'm going to try to be a lot more organized than I usually am in these lives, so that they can go back and watch this and they can have help writing their intro paragraphs as well. So also, if you're planning to be out tomorrow, hopefully the video will work out well and everything's good. Before we get started talking about intros, anybody have any questions about what you've been doing so far? Those quotes and thesis statements that you're working on, or did you guys check your grades and you can see that weighted column and you know what's going on with grades? Yeah, okay. All right, cool. So most grades, you looked at it. Okay, good. So most grades are looking pretty good right now. It's important to keep in mind, though, based on that breakdown, like 60% of your grade for the final grade hasn't even happened yet, right? It comes from these papers mostly. So you're doing well right now. Just keep up. Don't get spring fever and fall off the wagon because, your grade could still drop pretty significantly if you don't do well on these other essays. But in the same token, like if you're not really happy with your grade right now, you've got a lot of opportunity to bring it up. And as always, we're going to offer you the opportunity to rewrite and things like that. So, please don't be anxious. This is really a class where if you're willing to do the work, you're going to get a good grade. And that's how we want it to be. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we get rolling on intros? Yes. So that grade, I have a 0 on. I emailed, like, you emailed, it didn't send or what? Um, I'm not sure, but why don't you just, can you just copy the share link and email it to me, like, in a typed email? And then I'll answer you so that you know for sure that I got it. Hopefully, that will be the easiest thing, and thank you for being patient with that because I know sometimes stuff gets messed up. Yeah, and your work is always really good, so I'm not worried. If you get it sent, I'm sure it's gonna be really wonderful. I'm not worried, so you'll get a good grade, I'm sure. Okay, so let's talk writing intro paragraphs, and this should also help you to go back to what you did yesterday if you had a hard time trying to make a thesis statement. So I'm actually gonna copy and paste over what I put in our description today so you know what's going on. So the Google Docs that you created yesterday, you can just continue working in that because if you've already shared it with me, it's easy for me to kind of go back and see what you have going on. But in this intro breakdown, I'm trying to tell you like all the parts that I want and how long each part should be. I want our goal for this essay to really be about organization. If we can get the organization tight and you can see how there's a pattern to body paragraphs, then writing these longer essays becomes a lot less intimidating, because you know what you have to do in a body paragraph and it will just roll. So for intros, the annoying thing about English class I know is that we don't always have like uniform terms for parts of an essay, and sometimes different teachers will call different parts different things, and we all kind of have our own style. So I can see how like sometimes you can be like, well, you know, she hates it when I say in this essay I'm going to do blah blah blah, but my other teacher taught me how to do it that way. And I always just try to tell my students, like, well, you have to ignore everybody else. And when you're in my class, I want you to do it my way. And I've never gotten less than an A on a paper, so my way is going to work. My way or the highway. Um, I'm not good at much, but I'm good at writing papers, so we'll take it, right? And you too will learn how to write a nice paper after this. So you too, Cameron, you got this, buddy. All right, so I want you to start with a hook. Some people call it an attention getter. Anywhere from 1 to 3 sentences. I got you. I got you. You can email me. I'll be your friend. I got you, man. We got this. We can do it. All right. So in that hook, 1 to 3 sentences to grab your reader's attention. You can use a quote here. I mean, there's all kinds of messed up, crazy attention grabbing quotes within this book that you can use. You can find a historical figures quote about something going on with Vietnam. Any of that is appropriate. You can use an anecdote, which is like a short story of your own. That could be something to do with the topic. For example, some of my students who chose the PTSD topic in the past, they wrote an anecdote about Owen and Christina from Grey's Anatomy. You guys know I'm not big into Grey's Anatomy. And it kind of works. Anecdotes, you have to be careful. It needs to be, yes, Sabrina's face. It needs to be, you know, related to your topic and not that Grey's Anatomy one, while it's relevant because it is about PTSD, it also seems a little random, and it's hard to come back to Vietnam from that. So be careful with your anecdote and make sure that it's on topic and it doesn't seem totally random. You can use a surprising fact or statistic. You can talk about how many people were drafted into the Vietnam War, how many people died, anything like that grabs attention. Or if you're stuck, like as a last resort, go with a question. I know a lot of us are taught like from the beginning, like start your essay with a question. That's a good idea. That's true, but it's like basic, like that's the lowest level. Like when you start with a question, you and I both know, like I'm struggling, I'm kind of lame, I don't have anything better to say, so here's a question. Does that make sense? Like you can do it, it's just not that cool. Because like when you start an essay with a question, it's like, have you ever felt really sad before? Yeah, no duh. Like this is, I'm bored already after reading your first question. So go with a question if you're desperate, but if you could choose one of the other methods, that's better. Deal? Any questions about hooks? Deal. All right, good deal. And that's pretty easy. I don't want you to go longer than 3 sentences, because if you're going longer than 3 sentences, you're doing too much. It's too much. That would work as a hook, Hunter. All right. Transition. In this paper, you're going to be using your transition to identify the book. The purpose of a transition in any introduction is to let your reader know, like, here is the subject that I'm going to be talking about. So in a history paper, you would be saying, like, I'm going to be talking, well, don't say I'm going to be talking, but give some background on, you know, if you're writing your paper on the French Revolution, you're going to, you know, give some context with France during this time period so your reader knows where and what you're talking about. In this paper, your reader needs to know that you're talking about the things they carried. And to some extent, you have to assume, even though you know that I'm your reader because I'm grading them, you need to write your essay in a way that somebody who's never read the things they carried could still understand what you're talking about. So just in 2 or 3 sentences, you need to get across that The Things They Carried is a novel about Vietnam by Tim O'Brien. And you can add in a couple more details, but keep that summary really broad and kind of brief. All right, so get those ideas across in the transition, 2 or 3 sentences. Make sure you format the title of the novel correctly. For this paper, you can use MLA or APA formatting. I suggest you use MLA because anytime you write a paper about a novel in college, it's going to be in MLA format. So in MLA, when you're talking about a book by the title, it will be in italics, The Things They Carried. Anytime I see the title of that book in your paper, that's how it should look. Now, this book's a little trippy, right? Because the first chapter also has the same title. In that case, the title of the book goes in italics, but the title of the chapter will go in quotes. So if you're talking about chapter 1, it's going to be in quotes, and that's going to be the chapter. Cool? And then any other chapters will also be in quotes. So Sweetheart or the Song Trebong, put it in quotes. That's just like some basic MLA formatting there that you don't want to lose points over something stupid like that. So you got it. It's there. You know it. All right. Now we get down to the thesis statement. And this is what you guys started working on yesterday. A lot of you shared with me what you've already done. I haven't had a chance to look at all of those yet, but I am going to spend more time on it tonight to give you some feedback, because if you have a nice thesis, then you're going to have a nice paper, because your thesis is going to set up the organization of the whole body. I like a 1-sentence thesis, but you can do this in 2, as long as your thesis has these 2 pieces: the argument, which is your answer to the prompt, and then an organizational statement, which should give your reader just a sneak peek of what's going to happen in the body paragraphs. And actually, for an example, I did this with a morning class and it worked well. I used Caitlin's in the morning. I looked, and Abigail had shared hers with me yesterday, and it's pretty good. So I'm going to copy and paste Abigail's thesis statement that she gave me. And I'm going to show you she has both pieces there, and then we'll see if we need to clean it up, but I'm not sure that she needs to edit it much at all. I think it's looking pretty good. All right, so Abigail is doing the PTSD prompt, and we've got the prompt up there just to reference, because your argument piece of your thesis needs to come from that prompt. All right, and so looking at her thesis draft, in The Things They Carried, which she formatted nicely, thank you, it was never specifically stated that any of the characters had been diagnosed with PTSD. However, so Abigail has her argument here, but it's kind of broken up into 2 pieces. So here's our first part of the argument, and then many of the characters had this sad condition. So there's the second part of her argument. So what's her argument here? That many characters had this sad condition, and pretty much anybody who's doing this prompt, that's going to be your argument. Now, her organizational statement is good, and it's right here. However, many of the characters, such as, and then you've got a list. What do I know after looking at that list? It's my perfect sneak preview. I know that all my body paragraphs are going to come in this order, and this is what they're going to be about. So I'm first going to get one about Rat, then Jimmy Cross, then Boker, Marianne, and even Tim O'Brien. She's given me 5 examples here to work with. For a 4-page paper, that's more than enough. Honestly, Abigail, if while you're typing this paper, you're already at Bowker and you look like you're going to be hitting 4 pages anyway, you can go back and cut some of these off. Does that make sense? I think it's always better to plan a little extra when you're worried about a longer paper, and then you can always go back and delete out your backup people. For this one, I do think it's important to have Tim O'Brien in it. So I would maybe decide maybe Jimmy Cross, we know he has PTSD and I can find evidence with quotes, but maybe that's not going to be the most awesome paragraph. So if it looks like I really only need 4 examples to get to my 4-page limit, I'm just going to cut him out. Does that make sense? I'm watching you to see what you think. Yes. Okay, cool. Um, cool. So, um, you may be asking, like, is it okay that my argument piece is broken into 2 pieces around it? I can tell what it is, so I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with it. Honestly, I wouldn't change a thing about this. You did a really good job. Good job. Um, I might choose you're welcome. Um, I might choose one more prompt and give you guys another sample thesis statement. Just I think it helps to see this done as an example a couple times so that you feel confident for your own. Yeah, yeah, of course. Me too, Jonathan. If I can see a couple examples, like particularly in math, but even in English, it helps. You're a visual learner. Yeah, for sure. And honestly, like, the way that I teach organizing your essays, honestly, is probably friendly to a math-minded person because, if you look up there, like, hook transition thesis and I tell you how many sentences, I'm trying to give you, like, a big formula for each paragraph that you can just go in, piece by piece and fill in those sentences and know what to do. Um, so, I taught ninth graders, but I did have, like, honors ninth graders, so they thought they were pretty smart. Some of them were. Um, I need to be nice to them. Most of them were. But, many of them were math-minded, and they were like, "I hate English, I hate writing." I was like, "Oh, it's cool. I'm just gonna give you a big formula for an essay, and you can use it forever." So that's what we're gonna do with this. Um, any questions about Abigail's example before I move on? I'm gonna let you guys tell me what other prompt you would like to see a sample thesis statement from. But does this example at least kind of make sense and you see where we're going with it? I'm gonna I'm gonna guess, yeah, looks good. Okay, makes sense. Um, always, 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 this thesis statement needs to be at the end of your intro paragraph, which is your first paragraph. This is where teachers look for it. If it's not there, we're like, what's going on with this paper? Where is it? So that is important. Yes, Cameron. Can I give an example for which prompt? Which one, bud? About the women? Sure. Okay. So if we're good with Abigail, baby, I was gonna go back and copy and paste this into your doc, but I'm not changing anything, so I'm gonna leave your doc the way it is. Uh, and we'll keep moving on these examples because I wouldn't touch a thing on that. I think you did really well. All right, so for our next example, we are going to do the one about the women. So I'm going to copy and paste that prompt in here. All right. There are only 3 main female characters in O'Brien's novel, Martha, Marianne, and Linda. Explain what O'Brien's purposes are in including these 3 girls in a novel predominantly about men. I'm going to have you guys help me a little bit on this. I think the easiest way to structure this kind of paper is to choose a lesson, let's say, a lesson that O'Brien is trying to teach us about life or people for each of these 3 women. So let's start with Martha. If we had to say, like, what is O'Brien trying to teach us about life or war or people or whatever, what would we get into with Martha? Like, what's the lesson to be learned there? Are you nervous? It's okay. I won't fry you. I'll be nice. It's kind of hard to say with Martha. No, you're not sucking. It's okay, Cameron. We're gonna get it, sweetie. Um, well, do you remember what I had you guys do back in those chapters with Martha and Cross, and we talked about gender analysis? Um, does Martha align with most of the expectations for a woman in the 50s and 60s? No, she doesn't. Um, So maybe we can say that the lesson to be learned from Martha is like, um, it's got to be something about gender. And clearly, it's unprofessional to say gender is BS. So we've got to find an academic way to say it, right? So I would say gender roles are restrictive. Or something like that. What about Noah Cameron? Noah's gonna write that it's BS. Well, we got to keep the academic tone in these papers. All right. So for her, don't put BS, Noah. You're okay, buddy. All right. So gender roles are restrictive. You would never. Okay. It's sacred. All right. So for Martha, we're going to say that gender roles are restrictive. What's the lesson to be learned about Marianne? We know she's a savage. I mean, we could talk about gender there too, right? She's a heck of a lot tougher than Mark Fosse was. That poor guy's crying and looking for her the whole time, and she's killing people. She definitely broke those gender roles. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I go crazy, I go stupid. That actually describes her. Fair, no, fair. Jonathan, she was wild. Yeah. So honestly, even for her, we could say that gender roles are restrictive too. I think another approach we could take with her is to talk about how Vietnam steals innocence. I love doing that argument with Marianne because she goes from like this pretty blue-eyed girl in a pink sweater and wide leg pants, and then her eyes change color and she's wearing a necklace of tongues. Yeah, I think you're right too, Jonathan. That's a pretty big takeaway. Yeah. And you wouldn't think about it because women weren't drafted. And I mean, clearly, like, there is, when we talk about how frustrated we get because we think he's lying to us all the time and stuff like that, like, clearly, Sweetheart of the Song Trebong is mostly fiction. Like, there is less than zero chance that a chick could just get dropped off in the middle of the Vietnam jungle to hang out with her boyfriend. Like, no way. No way. Like, he definitely made that up. You're still sick, he lied to us. Yeah, he lies to us about everything. It's okay. We let him play with his mind. All right. And then Linda is tricky because we only see her in that last chapter, right? He is a meanie, but he's a smart meanie, and gosh, he writes well. He's mean, but he can keep being mean to us if he writes like that. I love his wording. He writes the way that I want to talk. He's so good. All right, so for Linda, I think she teaches us a lesson about death and memory. And the main reason why I would go with unique lessons for each of the three of them is because with poor Linda, you know, she does defy some gender stereotypes, but also she's a little girl. And I think it's harder to just take like they all defy gender stereotypes and make that argument work for her. Does that make sense? I mean, I think you can do it if you want to do it. But instead, the way I would structure this one is to take like each woman teaches a different lesson. And so with that in mind, the way that I would work this, yes, Cameron. So what did I say about Linda? Marianne, Vietnam steals innocence. And I'll get in that when we do this thesis, but it's very easy to talk about how Vietnam steals her innocence, not just from an intangible way, because of course you can talk about all of the ways that she becomes wild, but like down to her physical appearance. She goes from being a clean cut blonde girl in a pink sweater, to with blue eyes. Her eyes change color. Her eyes change from an innocent blue color to the green of the Vietnam jungle. So like physically, Vietnam takes away her innocence and changes her to this green-eyed devil with a bunch of tongues around her neck. Wild. Yes. And Linda, sorry, we're going to get there too. Trying to take notes. That's okay, baby. So Linda, I would say that she teaches us a lesson about death and memory, because, she dies from being sick, and then O'Brien uses storytelling to bring her back to him, which is why that last chapter, which doesn't have a lot to do with Vietnam, has everything to do with Vietnam. And it kind of explains to us why he lies to us too. Like, he brings the dead people back to life in stories. And of course, if you're going to do that, are you always going to remember things just as the way they happen? No, you might play with the facts a little bit to maybe make the truth feel more true to you emotionally. I think that's what he was trying to get at in that chapter. But I digress. So let's make a thesis statement. I'm going to make it a one sentence because I like it in one sentence. But if you want to have a 2-sentence thesis statement, you do you. So my argument in this one is going to be O'Brien includes the 3 major female characters to teach the readers 3 lessons. All right, so there's my argument. Now I'm going to do my organizational statement, where I'm just going to give the sneak peek of what I'm going to hit on in each body paragraph. Now for this one, Cameron, it is going to come out probably to 3 body paragraphs, but they're just, the way to still reach that length requirement is just to make them fat body paragraphs, and I'll teach you how to make your body paragraphs fat tomorrow. I'm an expert. Tomorrow's about body paragraphs. Thick. Your body paragraphs will be thick with 3 C's. Yeah, I got you. We will make thick, THICC, body paragraphs tomorrow. All right. So my or fat with a PH. Yes, of course. Very cool. All right. So my organizational statement here. 3 major female characters to teach leaders 3 lessons. Martha, to challenge gender roles. Marianne, to emphasize how war steals innocence. And Linda, to justify storytelling through death and memory. All right. So I got my 2 pieces of the thesis here. I got my nice little argument right there. Cameron, you can use this. You can use this as your thesis. And I got my nice little organizational statement right there. Yeah, no problem. No problem. Yeah, if you volunteer to let me talk to you about something and work on something with you, you can definitely use what we clean up together. So, of course. All right. Now that we got through that example, you've seen me work on 2 thesis statements. Are we kind of good with how we're turning these prompts into thesis statements and how that's going to translate into your body later? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Awesome. So the quotes piece, yes. I'm watching, Jonathan. If I send you a thesis, can I give you some feedback? Yeah. Yeah. The earlier the better. The earlier the better. So my kids got over their stomach viruses and now they all have like ear infections and colds. So they're on antibiotics and the antibiotics upset their stomachs and give them diarrhea. I have literally been in the field. Like the imagery and in the field is my life right now. So much poop. Oh my God. It's horrible. It's horrifying. Don't have kids. Don't do it. Yeah, I'm sorry too. It is so gross. It is so nasty. Yeah, it's the worst. It's the worst. Liquid, yep, rolling down the legs. Oh my God, yep. Winter, Winter had the opposite problem. It upset her stomach, so she threw up, and she was in the car, and I caught it in my bare hands. Like she was starting to throw up, and I was just like, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. It's a lot. It is a lot. So with that, the earlier you send me your stuff to get feedback, the better, because after I get these kids to bed, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of dealing with poop. I need to like get in the shower and spray myself down with Lysol because this is disgusting. So earlier the better, because I'm trying to like Lysol myself and forget about the horrors of the diarrhea from these kids from the day. He would help if he was here. He works in DC during the week, so Monday through Friday, I am pretty much on my own. And my dad's around, but he's a night nurse, so he works night shift, and he gets off tomorrow, so that will help. Yeah, I'm flying solo. It is tragic. It is tragic. Yes, good money there. It could be worse. I could be throwing up with them and I'm not, so I'll take it. It's all good. All right, babes. So my disgusting stuff aside, if you share with me, especially if when you share with me in the notes, you put a little something like, hey, I really don't like my thesis, or hey, I'm not sure about my quotes, to draw my attention to something that will help me in the feedback that I'm giving you. But if you can get your intro paragraphs done tonight, that's awesome. And then the next step would be gathering quotes. Now, what I want you to do when you're gathering these quotes is I want you to take that organizational statement that you have up here, and I want you to find, like, if you have 3 points like Cameron's going to have, Cameron needs to find 2 quotes that he's going to use in each body paragraph, because it's shorter and he's only got 3 points he's going to make. If you're someone like Abigail where you have 4 or 5 points, 1 quote per person is going to be fine. But you need to make sure that these quotes are going to be something that you can prove your argument with. And again, we'll get more into this tomorrow when I'm talking to you about body paragraphs in general, but like you need a really good quote in order to analyze it well enough to get that length like Noah's talking about, where you say, I'm kind of struggling with the length. If you pick a crappy quote, you're not going to have that much to say about it. If you pick a good quote that there's a lot to say about, like the quote about Martha like looking down and saying like she doesn't understand why men do the things that they do, we could talk about that a lot. Like we could say several sentences about how that could mean that maybe she's been sexually assaulted in the past. Maybe she is a lesbian and doesn't like men to begin with. If you pick good quotes, if you pick good quotes, you'll have more to say. If you're just going through like, oh, I know that she wants us to have a quote in this body paragraph, so I got to find something, and you like half butt find something that's about that character, you're not going to have anything good to say about it. That's the other reason why doing this work that you've been doing in class for these chapters, these Google Docs should help you lead back to some nice quotes in those chapters. So I also suggest looking at your notes. So again, tonight, shoot to have those intro paragraphs done. The more quotes, the better. But if you could have at least 1 quote ready for tomorrow, that way, sorry, I'm a little sick too. That way I can, if you have 1 quote ready for me and you want help, and I'll use you as an example and write a sample body paragraph with your 1 or 2 quotes. So Also, when you share it with me, just send an email and say, hey, I would like to be the example tomorrow, and you can write one of my body paragraphs as the example. And if you all do it, then I'm just going to have to like randomly choose who will be the example. Is that cool? Okay, cool. Cameron, I'm probably not going to pick yours, buddy, just because I did help you do your thesis today and we want to be fair. But I'll still help you do it over email if you need more help. Yeah, I got you. Okay, it's okay. All right, guys. I hope that this made sense and this helped you get ready for the intro part. I really think once we learn how to do body paragraphs like this tomorrow, you're going to be amazed at how much easier it is to write this and how quickly it will happen. Yeah, no problem. Anybody else need help with anything else? Because if not, I'm going to let you go and get to work on those intros. OC. I'm watching you, Grace. Noah, quit. Cut the crap. All right, Grace. Yeah, I'll go look at it right now. Or are you up for me like checking it in front of everybody? You want me to copy and paste and clean it up? Okay, cool. All right. Well, Grace already did hers. Let's look at one more example and see how it turned out. Yeah, yeah. That's smart. All right, Grace. Where is it? Why isn't it showing up for me? Did you share it to my VT email or did you share it to Dr. Ferguson's email? It's at the bottom of your pages. Okay, please hold. All right, I see it. I got it yesterday. Let's look. See all your quotes. Aha. Okay. All right, here we go. I got it. Ah, she used her Grey's Anatomy. Okay. All right. So we're going to put Grace's intro in here and see if she's got all of her pieces here. All right, so let's highlight. In my favorite show, Grey's Anatomy, two of the main characters suffer from this condition or suffer from the effects of, so let's change that to the condition or suffer from the effects of PTSD. Owen Hunt was in war, came back and fell in love with Christina Yang. Owen would get flashbacks from the war. And one time he even tried to choke her out. Excellent. Yeah. Good. So that's our hook. It's got my attention. My attention is there. So good hook. PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, which many people can suffer from, but the most common cause of this condition is war times. Excellent to include that in the transition because your reader's going to need that info. The Things They Carried helps portray the effects of a war through many characters developing PTSD. That's good. Okay, that's good. I'm going to go ahead and say I know that in the transition I'm saying 2 to 3 sentences. I would make sure, so again, make sure you identify that author by Tim O'Brien. Helps portray the effects of, and then let's be specific. So what war are we looking at, guys? Because remember, we want to make sure that even if they haven't read this book, right, Nam. All right, if your computer dies, babe, just catch up. All right. So we're going to be specific with Vietnam so that if our reader hasn't read this book, they'll know what we're talking about. So Vietnam, through many characters developing PTSD. O'Brien never says specifically that he or other characters. When you say many up here, you don't want to keep with the many. That's just me being picky. Says he or other characters suffer from PTSD. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. But it is clear that they did indeed suffer. Some of those are excellent, good thesis. Yes, yes. So I can see that we've got our argument right there. And then we've got our organizational statement here. Very good. Very good. I'm happy with that. That's gonna work fine. Good job, Grace. Yeah, yeah. So as you can see, like I know it helps a little bit just for me to go back. I'm copy and paste that into your doc now, smart. For me to go back, help you clean up just little wording things and such. But yeah, definitely. And I'm gonna try my best to get through everybody's tonight. Like I said, the earlier you can send, the better. I'm not taking a grade on this or anything. The benefit for you getting this done and the time that I'm telling you to get it done is so you can get this feedback from me before you're turning it in for good. And I grade it. Cool? All right. Thank you, Grace, for doing that. Actually, I think that's helpful for everybody to go and write their intros now. You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Okay, guys, go forth, write those intros. Muchas gracias. Um, all right. Go forth, write those intros, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place. Email me if you need me. All right. Bye, guys.